All right, good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to have you for our first of a multiple series event called Shifted Conversations. I am Jalea Mosley, the CEO, founder, and coach for J Aerial Mentoring. And so this is my way of bringing people together to share, really to build community and give options for just learning and sharing wisdom and iron sharpening iron. I believe in giving back to people, giving back in any way that I can find possible. So that is what Shifted Conversations will be moving forward. So whenever you are available to join on to the Shifted Conversation events, understand that you will be not wasting your time. I want you to share the word, pass the word around. This is just a space for us to grow together, grow as professionals, grow as entrepreneurs, creatives, just gain inspiration, be inspired, get motivation, have people that we can connect with and maybe expand our businesses further. Not only that, y'all, this is a space for believers. So a lot of times it can be difficult to navigate the space of business and being a believer because, as we all know, things in life do not always seem like they're panning out as we would like them to. But hopefully in these spaces with other believers sharing their successes and sharing their journeys, we can glean from them and understand that all things truly do work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So again, my name is Jalea Mosley. I am the coach and the founder of J Aerial Mentoring. There's a lot of other things that are in my back pocket, but this is my baby. This is what I'm passionate about. And this is the space that I want to curate for other like-minded individuals. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our panel. We have four amazing young men, young professionals that are here. They have sacrificed their time, and I want to say that I'm appreciative to them. So I will let them go ahead and introduce themselves in the order that they will be speaking, and we will get into it. All right, you got it, Cameron.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Cameron Kinley, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, graduated from the United States Naval Academy, currently serving as an intelligence officer in the Navy. So I'm excited to be here today. Met Jalea about a year ago, 2 years ago. Since then, been a really good friend, sister in Christ. So excited about what she's doing in the community she's creating, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. So excited to share my story and my journey today, and definitely hope that you can get something from it and apply it to your life as well.
And yes, happy Veterans Day, Cameron.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. So next, who we got next? Stevie, let's go.
Hey. Yeah, my name is Stevie Rizo. I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm a Christian R&B artist, and I'm just honored to be here just to share a part of the journey, and yeah, just to be able to obviously touch base with Jalea, who's putting on so many great things for the kingdom. And it's crazy because Jalea, I came across her Bible studies some time ago, and I've just been keeping up with the journey. So even your journey is blessing me. So I'm honored to just be a part of it now. So yeah, just happy to be here and share a part of what I've learned along the way.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's go. Adam, you up next.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Shuler from Florida, Altamont Springs, Florida. It's in the Orlando area. I've been an athlete most of my life, transitioned a few years ago to a more business, focused person. I still compete as an athlete, but I'm a realtor. I like to call myself an opportunist. If it aligns with my purpose and it makes money, it makes sense. So I'm an opportunist. I hop on anything that, aligns with my goals and my purpose. I've known Jalea for a few years now, good people. We laugh and share words of wisdom all the time. So I'm glad to be here, glad to speak, and I'm glad y'all can join us.
All right, and now I'm adding on our final speaker, my friend Trey. Go ahead, take the mic and introduce yourself.
Greetings, friends. Okay, so I am Trey. Sorry for my tardiness. I'm Trey. I am a therapist. I'm also a professional photographer, And I have a master's in clinical psychology. I'm actually also in a doctoral program to get a PsyD, which is a clinical-based doctorate for behavioral health leadership. I also have a bachelor's in exercise sports science, so I love fitness. If you went to the University of Memphis, a lot of people know me as Training Trey because that's really all I did. And so I love sweet Jesus. And so one of my passions has been to find the correlations between psychology and therapy. And because a lot of times, you know, especially within the African-American community, we believe that you don't need to go and see a shrink or somebody else outside of the church. And we've been taught that that's false information. And so one of the goals that I have been tasked with is to give 10 minutes of how that is not true. And so how we can actually make that make a little bit more sense. And so I'm going to do my best to do that. And hopefully we can have some fun while we're doing it.
All right. So are you guys ready? I need to know if those who are here with me today, are y'all ready to hear with these amazing young men, even with the introductions? Okay. They've already kind of given you a little bit of how much wisdom they already have and why they are qualified to share and speak on what they're about to share and speak on. So are y'all ready? Because I can't see y'all faces. So I need some type of something going on in the chat. I need something. I need a woohoo if you can unmute, you know, something. Because right now I feel like it's just us. Okay, my mom says, thank you for making yourselves available. Antonio, yeah. My mom gave us a woohoo. Okay. All right, so we are going to go ahead and dive into it. So I want to make sure you guys get y'all some pen and paper or pull out your phone, take some notes, because you do not want to leave here and not take with you what these wonderful individuals have prepared. All right, because they ain't playing no games. I want y'all to know they didn't look at y'all like y'all wasn't nothing. They came ready and prepared to give y'all what they have to offer. And it's really just a little peach, you know, like Trey said, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. I know Trey gonna struggle with that one. It was quite the task, but Trey, I do give you permission because I know you. If you need just like 3 more minutes, you got it, okay? All right, so we're about to go ahead and jump in. So our first speaker is gonna go ahead and go. Cameron, you go ahead, take the stage. We'll let you be the one and only speaker for the next 10 minutes, okay?
Appreciate you. I feel you, Trey. She said 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, snap. Yeah, but look, like I said, good morning, Cameron Kinley. I'm so blessed to be here. Encouraged by the group that we have gathering. You know, the Bible says when 2 or 3 gather in my name, I'm here. So I never get discouraged by the amount of people. I know somebody's going to be touched today, and then that one person's going to go touch somebody else. So appreciate you all for joining in on the call. One thing that I've noticed about society today is that we're very success driven. You know, that's what we praise on social media. That's what we praise on the TV, in the magazines, whatever it might be. But this emphasis on success is starting to deter people from the importance of failure. And through my journey, you know, and through many people's journey in lives as they go for these dreams and goals and aspirations that they might have, you run into these roadblocks, you run into these hurdles and these obstacles, and you either grow because of it or you regress and you take another route, which could take you away from your purpose. And so I was one of these people. I had a dream, I had a goal of one day going to play football in the NFL. And I was fortunate coming out of high school to go play Division I football at the United States Naval Academy. And I remember my first year at the Naval Academy, I got there. It was midway through my freshman season. We had just played the University of Memphis, actually. And my coach called me into his office. And I get into his office and he sits me down and he goes, Cameron, you know, we feel like you have a lot of potential. And y'all already know when somebody says you have potential, it's not really a good thing. It means they really don't believe in you. But he says, Cameron, we feel like you have a lot of potential, but you're not there yet. He said, you're too slow. You're too stiff in the hips to play cornerback at this level. So we're going to move you down the scout team for the rest of the year. And I was devastated. I mean, I won a state championship in high school. So I'm coming on the campus thinking I'm this big man on campus. I had all these dreams and goals planned for me. And here I was holding a bag in practice. And so I remember getting out that meeting, and the first thing I did was I called my dad. And if any of you have ever had a parent as one of your coaches, then you know it's an interesting dynamic. My dad coached me like my whole life. And so when I called him and I told him, I said, look, Dad, I don't think I want to play ball anymore. Like, This is what the coach told me. You know, I just wanted to get to college at this point. You don't have to pay for anything. My dad wasn't trying to hear any of that. He said, son, you're looking at this from the wrong perspective. You got to look at the criticism and the deficiencies that your coach mentioned and come back ready to attack it next season. And it's crazy. My dad wrote me a letter at the Naval Academy. You got to go through basic training before you start school. So the first letter that I got in basic training was from my dad, and it had a scripture in there, Jeremiah 29:11. It was my first time reading that scripture. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. And so when I got back to my room after that meeting with my coach, I read that letter and I saw that scripture. And when I saw that, it reminded me, you know, yeah, I understand that God has plans for me, but these plans aren't always going to be pretty. You know, the plans aren't always going to look how I wanted them to look. So yeah, I knew going to the Naval Academy was part of God's plan for me. And just because things got difficult didn't mean that I didn't need to trust in that. I had to trust that his plan was perfect. And my dad opened up my perspective about that. He opened up my perspective of this first failure that I experienced so that I could come back ready to compete next year. And so I attacked it in the off season. I attacked the weak areas that the coach mentioned, joined the yoga club. And I was fortunate to go on and start like 19 games or something like that at Navy and experience so much more than I ever imagined. And that's all because my dad changed my perspective of failure and reminded me of the plan that God has for me. And so when we're thinking about turning difficulties, turning adversity into an advantage for your life, the first thing that you have to do is remember Jeremiah 29:11. Remember that God has created this plan for your life. And so when you understand that God has a perfect plan for your life, then you understand that everything in your life happens on purpose. Everything is intentional. Everything has a reason, right? And then when you have that in your arsenal, you can continue to move forward. And which brings me to my second point of persisting in this plan, persisting in this purpose. And so I wish everything was all sunshine and rainbows after my dad changed my perspective. But I remember heading to my senior year, it's 2020, it's the COVID year. At this point, I'm like, this is probably gonna be my last year playing football. I had experienced some success that I wanted to, so I was pretty much ready to hang up the cleats. Headed into the year, my team elected me to be team captain. I was a finalist for the academic Heisman out of like 3,000 nominees. So everything's going good. Halfway through the season, my position coach calls me into his office. And this is a different position coach. So we had a different relationship. We used to talk all the time. So when he called me into his office, I didn't get the same feeling that I had my freshman year. And so he calls me in there, he's checking on me, asking me how the guys are doing. You know, like I said, it's COVID, so people are struggling a little bit. We're just having some genuine conversation. And then he just slips in a kill shot on me. He goes, you know, we're going to go with a different look this week. We're going to play some different people. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, who you playing on the other side of me? Like, I played corner. There's 2 corners on the field. So I'm like, who you got on the other side? He said, no, we're going to take you out. And I'm like, what you mean? Like, I'm having a good year. Everything's going well, team captain. And I was devastated. And I remember that game we were playing Houston. I remember the broadcast. It zoomed in on me on the sideline saying, you know, Cameron Kinley, team captain, not making his first start in like 23 games. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, just embarrassed, right? National television, distraught, the failure getting placed on the spotlight. And so I remember getting back to my room that night, watching that broadcast. And I just Googled, you know, what does God say about persevering in hard times? What does God say about difficult moments? You know, really looking for the word to give me some substance. And I came across James chapter 1. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be complete, not lacking anything. And I just got stuck on those first like 4 words, consider it pure joy. I'm like, consider it pure joy, God. How do you consider something that hurts you so bad, something that embarrasses you, something that you know, aren't fond of? How do you consider that pure joy? But as you read later in the scripture, you know, blessed is the one who perseveres on the trial, because having withstood the test, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised. And so I'm like, okay, so I got to go through this hard time to receive what you're telling me. And I remember the end of that season, we're playing Army-Navy, biggest rivalry in college football. And I don't play that game. I get in like the last 10 seconds. Army's taking knees and they're running the clock out. And I remember looking at the scoreboard, seeing the final seconds tick off the clock. And everybody in the stands, they're thinking that's the final seconds of the game. But here I am watching the final seconds of an 18-year football career tick off. And I remember when it hit 0, I'm just walking across the field and I'm in the twilight zone. And something's just telling me like, nah, this can't be it. I was like, this can't be it. But the only other option at this point to keep playing football was the NFL. But having lost my starting job, the confidence wasn't there. But I remember, consider it pure joy, perseverance. I'm like, God has something for me. Not necessarily saying he's going to make sure I get to the NFL, but God has something to teach me. And so I ended up declaring for the NFL draft, stepping out on faith in search of this lesson, not in search of signing the NFL contract. I was in search of something that God was trying to teach me from the journey. And fortunate enough, after going through some training in COVID, most people go train at these different facilities, but the Naval Academy, we were locked down. So I was doing pull-ups in my shower, lifting weights in the abandoned track shed, training myself. It was a journey, it was a grind, like being persistent, consistent in spite of knowing the result. On May 1st, 2021, I got a phone call from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers saying that they wanted to sign me as an undrafted free agent, right? And that moment was so much bigger than making it to the NFL. It's the importance of putting your trust in God, putting your faith in God in spite of, being persistent in spite of, persevering in spite of what your current circumstances are. And so as you chase your dreams, you chase your goals in life, right? Yeah, you understand that God has a plan. It's easy to say that, but when you're actually going through the fire, when you're actually going through the storm, are you staying consistent? Are you persevering in spite of not knowing what God has for you, but you're just hungry for what God is trying to show you? And so I was fortunate enough to sign that contract, went down there for rookie minicamp, got back to the Naval Academy to graduate the next week. And then I had a meeting with my commandant, who's like the president of the school. And he told me that the Navy had denied my package to go play in the NFL. So here I am out there, I'm finally thinking things are sunshine and rainbows. I get hit with another piece of adversity. And I end up fighting for my dream in the national spotlight. And after about a month of doing these interviews, reaching out to these congressmen and things of that nature, President Biden got a hold of the situation, turned the things around, and then I was back down there competing in Tampa Bay, which brings me to my last piece of this adversity, turning adversity to an advantage. I hope I'm doing good on time. So I'm back down there in Tampa 2 years ago, living out my childhood dream in training camp, competing for a spot. I'm down there competing against Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans. Like, I'm really living the dream. This is what I dreamed about since I was 4 years old. And I remember first preseason game came against Cincinnati Bengals. My parents flew down, family, friends flew down, and it was time to make it happen. And I'm out there on the field, finished the game, 6 tackles, second most on the team. Don't give up any big plays. And I just remember walking off that field, like, just feeling that sweet feeling inside of me. Like, man, like, we really about to make this happen. Like, you just got to keep doing it week after week so we can make this roster. The next morning, I dropped my parents off at the airport, kiss them goodbye, tell them I'll see them next week. As I'm driving back to the team hotel, I get a phone call from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office. And it's weird. I'm like, this Sunday, it's our off day. I go, hello? They say, hey, what's going on? I'm like, nothing much. Just dropped my parents off at the team hotel. At the airport, heading back to the team hotel. They said, well, there's no reason for you to do that. We've decided to release you today. You'll no longer be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And I just remember feeling speechless, just silent, like emotionless. And then as I'm driving to the facility, getting my stuff, pack everything up, get my parents from the airport, I'm driving back to Memphis. And I just feel the tears just flowing down my face, just rushing down my face. And I'm asking God, I'm like, God, what's the point? What's the point of persevering through all of this if I'm just going to end up like this? If I'm just going to end up feeling like this, where is the lesson? Where is the joy? That joy that you were talking about, I don't feel any of it, right? Like, I feel like I did all this for nothing. And I remember getting back to Memphis and just sending myself into isolation. Didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to be around anybody. And then I got a call from my mentor one day asking me to come speak to her students. And I was hesitant at first, but I took the opportunity. And she teaches at Project Stand. It's an organization that deals with kids transitioning back into society that have been involved with the criminal system. And so when I walk into that room, I see a room full of young men that look like me, and they're just hungry for a change. They need to know that where they are isn't dictating of where they're capable of going. And I just remember standing in front of them, telling them about the journey that I had been through, and all the adversities, all the ups and downs, and all the lessons that I learned. And it was in that moment where I was hit with the most valuable lesson of my life. Maybe it's the journey and not the destination. Maybe it's who you become in the process and not exactly what happens at the end of the process, And it's through that process that you get connected with your purpose. And I realized, you know, if things hadn't happened how they happened, I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now, standing in my purpose. You know, the value in life isn't in a position, it's in the purpose that God has gifted you with, right? God has gifted each and every one of us with this purpose to play our piece in the puzzle that he has created for his masterpiece on earth. And sometimes we got to go through the adversities, we got to go through the obstacles, and our plans have to shift, our plans have to go different directions so that we can understand this purpose. And while I had this dream of going to the NFL and being a Hall of Fame football player and living that life and making millions of dollars and all that, God had a different plan for me. He had to take that away from me so that I could get closer to him and so that I didn't lose sight of what he had for me. And I'm blessed today to be walking in my purpose. And what I've realized is I have no better fulfillment, right? Football doesn't give me the fulfillment that I get when I get to go speak to the youth, when I get to go speak to these schools, these businesses. Football doesn't give me that, right? God has given me a new platform to continue to share his word, continue to share his love, his mercy, to get people closer to him. And it may not be on the football field, right? But it's a gift that it doesn't matter if I'm a military officer, it doesn't matter if I'm a football coach, it doesn't matter if I'm a CEO, right? This gift remains the same, this purpose remains the same. And I encourage each and every one of you to continue to battle through the adversities in your life and have in mind that God is preparing you. God is molding you for a purpose that's so much greater than you can imagine. And I'm so blessed that God was patient with me, that God has given me the perspective, the clarity to understand that. And so now I trust in my preparation, even today, as I live all the way across the country in Washington State, away from my family and everything. I trust that God is preparing me for something great. And I encourage you all to do the same.
Thank you. Thank you. So, does anybody have any questions right now for Cameron before we go to our next speaker? Because we will have some Q&A at the end. But anybody have any like right now? All right. No questions at this time. All right. Well, thank you so much, Cameron, for sharing your story. If you're able to stick on for a little while longer with the other speakers, that'd be great. So next we have Stevie. So Stevie, I'll let you go ahead and come on down. And you can take the stage.
All right, everybody can hear me? All right, cool. So I wanted to start this off by saying I'm a Christian R&B artist, and I wanted to just share my journey on figuring out how I was a representative of the kingdom, and I had no clue, and I was lost. I was standing behind my flesh, and I was lost. So what it is called purity in pursuit. So I just want to go ahead and give y'all a little bit of my journey. So I started out as a youngin'. I was like 5, 6 singing, right? I started singing at a very young age in church. So my grandparents had this super big church. It was like prophecies over my life, like 5 and 6, that I'm gonna be a singer. My music's gonna travel the world. God got a calling on my life, right? So my grandparents used to force me to sing and like really step into my calling on life. So all right, so all the way from 5 until like teenage years, I would do that. I would sing in church. It was a cool thing. But then as soon as the teenage years hit, I started to stray and try to figure out who I was as a person. What it really was now looking back, it was my flesh. My flesh evolved to the age of hunger. So first my spirit was as a kid just giddy and soaking it all in. Then my flesh came into play as a teen and I began to stray. And my flesh took me down a wild journey of chasing the world. So I started to write songs for people. I started to sing. And I thought that all the prophecies given to me at 5 and 6 were being revealed to me. I was traveling the world singing, not for Christ at all, but I'm thinking like, hey, God told me I can do this. This is what it is. And I'm going full force in it. I started writing songs for some of the biggest artists. I was working with Neo and Trey songs, and I wrote, this was like a super turning point for me, right? So I went down this whole rabbit hole, fulfilling my flesh. My flesh was like eating. My flesh felt good. Like, yeah, like I am doing this. You know, I remember just feeling like so pumped up and big. And I remember this one day, I wrote this song for Escape. And that was just like bucket list to me. Like Escape was just mind blowing to me. And I remember going home and I prayed and I said, God, my flesh was so full. I said, God, you exalted me. You really allowed me to do this. Like, thank you so much. And he said to me, don't thank me. Don't thank me. And that's all I heard from him was, don't thank me. And I was like, wait, what? Like, this was like the biggest, most coolest thing I've ever accomplished. And I'm thinking all the way back to being 5 and hearing those prophecies. And I'm like, this was that moment. This was that turning point. And he's like, nah, don't thank me. And that's all I heard. And I just sat with that for a few days of like, so wait, am I doing this? And I'm like, wait, I'm 100% doing this. This is all me. Like, this has nothing spiritual, no spirituality in it at all. This is all flesh. And then I sat there and I realized, like, wait, my flesh is so full, but my spirit is completely empty. Like, God gave me a sprinkle of a word. I couldn't even get more than that because my spirit was so empty and all I had was my flesh, you know? So it was a super turning point for me. And I'm just sitting there and I'm so fulfilled fleshly, but I'm so empty spiritually. And I said, God, whatever I got to do to die to this moment, let it happen. And then instantly, the scripture from being young in church, always hearing this story of it's hard for a rich man to make it into heaven. It's harder than a camel going through the eye of a needle. That popped in my head, and I was fleshly rich, like my flesh was overflowing, and I said, uh-oh, I don't think I can do it. I won't be able to walk this path that God is requiring of me. So he told me to die. That's what I heard from him, die. But like I'm telling you guys, my spirit was so fleeting, like I couldn't get the whole sentence from him. It would just come in like sparks. So I'm like, okay, what does he mean by that? So I went down the whole journey of trying to figure out how can I die to live for Christ. And I realized it was all flesh. So in that turning point, I went on a 6-month fast from music. Now, music was my life. I've been doing music since I was 5 years old. Like, that was all I really knew. But for 6 months, I said, I'm gonna just sit out and I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna just praise and worship you and really try to know you again. Know you for who I knew you as a 5-year-old. Know you for the first time my spirit felt you before my flesh stepped in. And that was the most invigorating time of my life. I was free from everything that I thought that I needed, my flesh needed. It's crazy because I feel like I became a completely different person after that. And it's like, wow, like my flesh really liked some things that my spirit was just not rocking with, not even a little bit. So through that pursuit, I had to pray a lot of people, a lot of things away. I remember I set up a meeting for my record label and I went in there. I had a meeting. I'm like, listen, guys, now this is I'm at Motown Records, like one of the biggest record labels. They got gospel artists. They have secular artists, but they also have gospel artists. So I'm like, cool, God, I'm gonna do this for you. My spirit is in it now. All right, cool. I went and met with my record label. I said, listen, I really want to do this gospel music. Like, I think God is calling me to do this. I want y'all to back me on this journey and support it. So once again, this was my flesh saying like, okay, I can have the fleshly desires of like success, to look good in the world, or what you're trying to do. But my spirit, I can just do it for God too. So I was trying to marry the two, right? So I went to my label like, listen, y'all want to help me? And they said no, because your image is not gospel. Your image is secular. So I'm like, what, what do you mean trying to, why would you guys not want to help me be a gospel artist? We can make waves. And they're like, no, we don't want that. And that's another turning point when I realized, like, okay, the world and God is not on the same team. Like, the world don't want you to have a nice image for God. They want gospel to have an image of older people out of reach, out of touch. So our younger demographic don't evolve and get adapted to what it is. So that's when I'm like, all right, well, I left. That was the last day I was ever with that label. I went, took everything away. Like, God really stripped my flesh. When I tell you that, like, a rich man can't make it into heaven, I was broke after that. The flesh went to zip zero. Like, I lost everything. I lost everything but God. I lost financing. I lost relationships. The label dropped me for wanting to go gospel, lost it all. And I was like, God, now let's do it. Let's do it for you. And now where I am is I would say twice as far as I was when I was doing it for the world without the world. So that's the beauty in it. Like I was with Motown Records. Like this was bucket list. You can't do no better than that. To lose all that and to only be left with God, and now they calling me like, how did you get this far? Is like mind blowing to me. You know, so I would say through your pursuit, just always try to go back to that first feeling of finding your savior, you know, because that's the most like try to hold on to that feeling. Because every time I would start getting lost again and start saying like, well, God, I do need money. I do, you know, want that flesh start creeping through again. I try to go back and be childlike, like a little kid. And I say, you know, I'm chucking it all to you and I trust you, your divine power. Whatever it is you require of me, let it be done. Let your will be done through my life. And that's how I'm rocking. I hope I'm good on time though, but that's a part of my journey. So I make music that uplift the Most High. So I would be honored if you guys on this call would check out my music, and even like this journey that I explained to you guys is in some of the songs. And yeah, I just, man, when I say like he shifted mountains in my life, and it's just a beautiful journey. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Stevie. So does anybody have any questions right now that you want to ask Stevie? Otherwise, if y'all need some time to just chew on it, go ahead, Cameron.
Hold on. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
That's an amazing testimony, bro. But you're saying it like it was easy though. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel that it wasn't easy, but still like how were you able to turn down, you know what I'm saying? You're talking about Motown. You're talking about writing songs for escape. Like you really living in that light and that worldly light. And I know that can be addicting, you know what I'm saying? Because you're getting that hit of dopamine constantly getting that hit of dopamine. So
Yeah.
how were you able to like, what was the true turning point where you was like, nah, like the God, was it a situation, a scenario? Like what kind of sign or message did he give you?
Well, luckily for me, I feel like it wasn't like a direct turning point. What it was my foundation. So I was luckily I had parents and grandparents that was heavy in the church. So when my flesh did feel like it reached its peak of where it needed to be, like, oh, I'm here now, like I got it, something just always felt missing. Something felt like I got everything I want, but why am I still like, you know, not as happy? So that thought would just always be there. So when God said, don't thank me, that's when it hit me. Like my foundation, like slapped me in my face. Like all them years your parents put in, all them years your grandparents put in, you're losing sight of all of that. And my grandparents had passed away. So I instantly went to, wait, well, who's carrying their lineage? Like nobody in my family is really carrying the lineage that my grandparents started. And then it just made me want to like stand up and take full force on what they put in me at 5. You know, so I would say it was just my foundation that made it a little bit easier for me to know what to get back to.
All right. So a question that I do want to ask is, so we see the turning point in your life earlier on, but as we all know, the enemy don't stop. So even now that you clearly understand what you're doing and that there is fulfillment in pursuing Christ in what you do and seeing plainly, like I'm way further than I was. What do you still find yourself encountering where the enemy is still trying to bait you, similar to say Jesus, whenever he tried to show him, you know, all this, I'm gonna give this to you. But you already, you know, feeling all these ways that you're feeling. What are some of those temptations or those thoughts or things that the enemy still throws at you to try to discourage you or turn you away from where you are now?
I feel like the biggest thing the enemy try to use is me. And it's crazy because that's how I got far when I was working in the world. It's me. Like I would be like, I'm the best. I got this. I. And then doing it for Christ, you can still get caught up in I. Even like songs I want to release when I want to release them. Like even this, like events that I want to do. No, I gotta constantly die to myself. I gotta constantly show up when I don't feel like it. because it's not about me. I gotta release messages that I know God is telling me to release because it ain't about me. Even one of my biggest song right now is this song that's called Esther. It's about a biblical you guys may know the story of Esther in the Bible, and then I turned that into a song. That's something I didn't want to do. I just felt like this, it's cool, but not really something I really wanted to do. But I knew God was giving me that message. So yeah, I feel like stuff like that, just trying to stay humble and realize that it ain't about me.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions for Stevie before we go to our next speaker? All right. So if any comes to your mind, we will definitely have some time at the end. So thank you so much, Stevie, for sharing a part of your journey, sharing your testimony about purity in the pursuit. And so now we are going to have Adam, and he's going to talk to us about some more of just that mindset component. So thank you, Stevie. And you got the floor, Adam.
What's going on? What's going on? You know, it's crazy because I tell people all the time, the only reason that, can y'all hear me first of all? Okay. I tell people the only reason why we feel like we're alone is because we don't talk to people. And hearing these men talk, it's like I want to chime in so bad because I can relate to everything that they're saying. Cameron was talking about, his football journey and losing that opportunity, and I'm like, is he talking about me? But I want to share my screen. I do have some slides. How can I do that? Is it all automatically sharing, or I gotta click something?
So go and to share your screen.
Where is it at?
It should be, you see the Zoom screen that you're on? Go down, it should be a little green box.
Green box.
At the bottom.
Oh, there we go.
We got it.
All right. Y'all can still hear me? Y'all can see it?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, you good.
Oh, okay. So just who I am. I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But, where I'm from, I graduated from University of West Virginia and University of Florida. Professional athlete, realtor, coach, small business owner. Like I said earlier, opportunist. I wear many hats, or have worn many hats. And I'm speaking today on this mindset. And I call it apex predator because, I mean, that's what I think we are, and I'll tap into that. But it's a winning mindset. And first, I'll clarify what winning is. Winning and success is pretty similar, or one and the same. But we got to know what winning is and what success is. So the world and me at a certain point in time, I thought winning and success was a number. It was a value. It was accolades. It was, a place in society, a higher place in society. So when I went to college and I was a star athlete at both universities and, went pro, I thought I was winning. When I even got my, master's degree, I thought I was winning. When I got my first, NFL check, I thought I was winning. But that's not necessarily what winning or success is, because success and winning doesn't have a dollar value on it. I've met along the way a lot of successful people who live below their means, who lived a very regular lifestyle. And they were winning because they were clear in the mind. They were at peace. I speak a lot of my great grandmother who raised me, and she was very successful woman. She wasn't a rich woman. She wasn't, a high in society, but she was very successful. Why was she successful? Because she was at peace. She lost a lot through her life. I watched her lose people. We lost people together. I watched people wrong her, but it phased her. It mattered to her, but she was still at peace. So that's what I think winning is, and success is sustaining your life and being at peace. Now, for the apex predator thing, what are they? I mean, I think we all pretty much know. And there are predators at the top of the food chain. They rule the land or water or wherever they are, the skies, the eagle. They rule whatever they are or wherever they are. And they come second to none. There's nothing that can defeat them unless there's a group of them. One-on-one, they're going to win every time. Now, what puts these at the top? What makes them, the top dog? And these are a few points. There's many more, but they're fearless, they're intelligent, they're strong and fast, and like I said, they're second to none. And as you remember before on the last slide, I have some examples of lions, sharks, crocodiles, and humans in caps, because we are, by definition, the apex predator. I'll go to the second. Because, and this is why, because who's able to, what species has successfully been able to wipe out humans? None. There's many viruses that took a lot of us out. There's many animals that, are bigger, faster, stronger than us. But what species or other life form has taken us out successfully? And there's none. Because every adversity that we face, every challenge that we come across, we find a way around it as humans. As a collective, as humans, we find a way around it. There's animals that, we hunt elephants, we hunt lions. How are we able to do that? They're way physically stronger than us, more talented, faster, whatever. But we're smarter, we're more intellectual, and we can build upon, what we have and make it better. So we are, by definition, the top apex predator. Now, the problem is what comes along with that. So what makes humans different than other apex predators? And my thought is decision making. We as humans make worldly decisions. We as humans, make decisions purely off of pleasure, fear, and approval. So I got some pictures of, see they're on social media, double tapping, liking, because that's where a lot of us make our decisions. I mean, I was the same way. I felt bad or didn't approve of myself, or wouldn't take the step forward if I thought other people wouldn't approve. When I first came home from the NFL, because like Cameron said before, I mean, and it touched me when he said that is he got that call, because I got that call twice from two different teams. Hey man, turn in your iPad, we're releasing you. The first time I got it, I wasn't as sad because they had to, compensate me for my injury. But the second time, I was in San Francisco. I had been up there for about a month, and I'm like, let me ship my car up here because, I need my car, and I think I'm good now. I've been practicing real well. I think I'm good. Let me ship my car up here. The day my car got to San Francisco, I went to pick it up, met the guy off the trailer, went to pick it up. I'm at the car wash. I'm getting my baby nice, sparkling clean. I get a call from the stadium. It say, hey man, what you doing? I said, man, I just got my car, washing it up, ready to hit the streets. They said, hey, man, can you stop by the stadium? I said, for what? They said, man, you turn on your iPad, man. We're releasing it. I had just spent $1,300 to get my car shipped, just got comfortable, just thinking everything good, and it was snatched. So I relate to that so very much. And my decision to move forward in my life was hard at the beginning because the approval of others. My decision on starting my career, my decision on doing other things, I didn't initially do what I'm doing now because I wanted the approval of others. And I was scared of what others think. I was scared of what I was capable of. And I was sad. I let my emotions dictate my trial and error. The difference between other animals or other apex predators is they don't do that. Lions, tigers, bears, they make decisions on their survival, their evolution, and their territory. They still have emotions. They still love their young. They still love their family. They still have those emotions. They don't act on them as much as we do, but they make decisions based on their survival. Lions, they kick out, their cubs, their male cubs at a certain age because they have to go. They love them, they play with them, but they have to go. They make the decisions based on their survival. And a lot of times when I'm conflicted about my choices, I literally turn on Animal Planet and watch them in their natural habitat because our creator made them just like he created us. And he created us in the same category as them for a reason. Just like us humans can look towards another Christian, another strong person and get strength, we can look to other species that are the same as us to see how to live. And one day I was watching Animal Planet and the guy was talking of lions. And the guy said, when lions hunt large prey, they risk death, but take it too slow and they risk failure. I'll let y'all think on that for a second. Be who you were born to be. Like I said, we were created by the same creator that created these beautiful animals. You were designed to be a leader. You were designed to, that doesn't mean no one's supposed to listen, everyone's supposed to just be, top dog. But you were designed to lead every other species. You were designed to lead the people around you. You were designed to help. You were designed to grow. You were designed to attack the hard things because, newsflash, I don't think anywhere in the Bible or any piece of literature ever read that says once you get to a certain point in life, you're not going to have any problems. Once you reach a certain dollar amount, you're not going to have any problems. There's nowhere that says that. So with that being said, you're going to face hard times. You're going to face failure. You're going to lose. That shouldn't deter you from attacking your purpose and attacking your goals. How do we evolve as a species? We strengthen ourselves and we strengthen the next person. Because every last apex predator out there, if he is in the middle, or he or she is in the middle of the wilderness alone, they're weak. If that one lion goes to attack a buffalo by himself in a herd, he's weak. They may trample over him. But if there's 5 or 6 of them, if there's 7 or 8 of them, that whole herd is going to disperse. And I said on here, emotions are great, but they weren't meant for us to act on them, because emotions are feelings, are just like feelings, and they change. One day we can be happy, 1 minute we can be happy, 1 minute we can be sad. That doesn't change our purpose and our goal. But if you act into your emotions that may change, it can cause you to miss your shot for your goal. It can cause you to disengage with your goal. We must act in our purpose, which is for growth and survival. And I also just wanted to say, I have a 3-day challenge I like to tell people about. And it basically is, for the next 3 days, make every decision you need to make or have to make based on your growth and your survival. Not what feels good, not what's temporary, not what people approve of, you know, not for worldly benefits, but make these decisions based on what supports your growth and your survival, just like these other animals, and see how it is. When you watch Animal Planet and you see these lions, because they're the most ferocious thing, or sharks too. They look kind of ugly, but they beautiful creatures. When you see them in their habitat, they at peace. When they're not in hunt mode, survival mode, or protecting their territory, they look like you just want to pet them. Because people do it. Why is that? That's because they don't let the outside noise. The lions don't care about what the pack in the other safari or 100 miles away are doing. They're not checking to see, you know, what the other lions approve of. They handle their business when it's time to do it. And when it's not, they're at peace. So, and the last quote I had is, I heard on Animal Planet is, it said the lions is adapt or die, to eat or be eaten. And that's the truth. Because if any species on this planet does not adapt to their new surroundings and evolve, they become extinct. And everything is centered around your mindset. It's either in your consciousness or your subconsciousness. Everything that happens, every movement, I'm moving my hands, it all comes from the brain up here. You have to rewire and choose what you want to do. Make the decision. It's hard. Nothing's easy, for sure. It's not going to be easy, but it's the mindset that we need to have of attacking, of not trying to avoid failure, because like the brother said, it's the journey. I seen a quote before is, the end goal may not be worth it. It may show itself not to be worth it, or, you know, not approved or not achieved. It was the journey that was all that mattered, 100%. So that's it for me, though. I think that's my last slide.
Well, that was really good. Thank you so much, Adam, for sharing that, the apex predator mindset. Let me just say, okay, first of all, this challenge here, I don't really like how you just did that, because, you know, I think it's a good bit of athletes in this space right now. And, you know, when people are given a challenge, so I feel challenged, but at the same time, I'm a very emotional being. So this is going to be very difficult for Jalea. So I do want to see if we can do this challenge. So Adam, I want you to lead us out with this challenge, okay? Like, everybody that's on here, I need y'all, go ahead, send me, all right? Send me on either Instagram or my email. Send me your social media handles, because we're going to do this challenge, all right? We're going to be better for the next 3 days, and hopefully carry on further. All right, but that was a great challenge. But let me say, I want to kind of comment on the end goal may not be worth it. Y'all, if that didn't just, I'm gonna let that sizzle in y'all spirit, because this is mine. All right, so since our brains are percolating, we've gotten some faith part, right? We got some mental stimulation. Let's get into this psychological aspect. So my boy Trey is going to get y'all together, just as the last three have really tapped on different parts of us. So thank you, Adam, for what you have shared. It was extremely valuable. Y'all, they hitting heavy today. I don't know about y'all, but I feel very challenged, very, you know, I feel like there's some growth taking place. So thank you so much, Adam. Trey, it is your turn. Adam, if you will give me the host back, please. Well, I got it.
I'll do it. Oh.
I got you. All right, Trey, you have the floor.
All righty, greetings and salutations. Okay, so these guys are a little bit difficult to follow behind, but I enjoy every bit of it. Shout out to y'all, and I thank y'all for giving me a little bit of hope in a lot of different aspects. So, tasked with talking about psychology and spirituality. So my goal here is just to think. I like to think a lot. If you know me, then you know that we gonna think, and so. Psychology and spirituality. So one of the first things you want to do in the case of understanding a thing is you want to be able to define it. A lot of times to be able to define a thing, you have to describe it. And so if any of you are thinking right now, you're like, well, what is spirituality? Like, well, what is psychology? What is the mind? What are all these different things that we are even like having a conversation on? So brief definitions just to be able to give us some background on what exactly it is that we're talking about. So spirituality, Oxford's dictionary is going to call this the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. Okay, so the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material and physical things. And so obviously biblically correlative is, the Greek and the Hebrew of this. So the psyche means spirit or soul in the Bible. Okay, so whenever you typically see that, you see in psyche, and so that's obviously where we get the word psychology from, some degree. And then it's nefesh or pneuma is breath in the beginning. When you see in the beginning Genesis 1 and 2, where it's like the breath of God hovered over. And there's this guy, Ryan Kuja, I think is his name, who basically was talking about how in the beginning, when the hovering of God's voice, breath, spirit, that was the dispelling of darkness amidst, like via the spirit, from his spirit hovering. And it's that same spirit that dispelled the darkness that actually lives within us. And so so understanding your spirit in psychology, like you can't do that out like with physical things, right? That's not something that, and so it takes a practice or a discipline that is not constitutive of physical things to be able to get to things that are not like, these are abstractions. These are not concrete. Like this picture behind me, we can see this. Like we know, we probably can look up what it takes to be able to come into grasp with what that thing is and how they got to being able to put that into a frame or how they painted it. And so like to feed our body, our physical nature, we give ourselves food, right? We can go in the kitchen, cook some, things of this nature. So, and if something's going wrong physically, you go to a medical doctor who can deal with the medical and the physiological aspects of the body. But when there's something wrong with your mind, and when there's something wrong with your spirit, there has to be something in a practice and way that we are able to engage with that aspect of ourselves. And so that's the psychological aspect. And so psychology, what is that? It's the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. Okay, so the human mind and its functions. That's what we're looking at when we're talking about psychology. And so you can look at the definitions, and you can see that they kind of like intertwine to a degree, because it's like, well, what is the spirit? What is that? And so there's this guy, Dan Siegel, who actually does he's done his life's work trying to define, he's a psychiatrist, his life's work defining mind. And so his definition, that because up until him, there was no one person that actually had done a definition of what the mind actually is that he felt like was suitable. And he went and he surveyed thousands of psychologists and therapists and psychoanalysts and neuroscientists, and none of them had a succinct definition of the mind. So this is what he says the mind is. The mind is a self-organizing, emergent, embodied, and relational process. It's a process that arises from regulates energy and information within the body we live in, between ourselves and the other people, and with the planet. Okay, so your mind is not only the thing that's in your head. Okay, it's almost like your mind is constructed of all the things that you see, that you experience, that you are touching, that you maybe even the things like when you've grown and you've developed and you don't even know that these things have played into who you are as an individual until you get into a room talking to a therapist, and or you get into a situation where you're acting out something that is not actually good for long-term, productivity. And maybe you get into a relationship and something arises out of you and you're like, well, where did that come from? And then you have to do your unpacking, and then you're understanding that this is a part of the mind that I did not know was there, or that I learned, right? And so your mind is a self-organizing, emergent, embodied, and relational process that arises from and regulates energy and information within the body we live in, between ourselves and other people, and within the planet. And so there's this psychologist also, Jordan B. Peterson, one of my favorite thinkers. Man, I love the guy. And one of his thought processes about thought is that even the idea of thinking, it's like when something comes to you, ever had something come to mind, right? That's not you thinking. Like, so what is that? It's like, it's almost like that's like a download of some sort, like that didn't necessarily come from you. And so it's like, well, where did that come from? And then you have, and the critique of the thing that came to mind and the process. If y'all hear dogs, that's my dog, I'm sorry. And so the critique of the thing that came to mind is the thought, the process of the mind. And so a lot of times there are things that come to mind that we don't actually even do our due diligence of unpacking. And so what psychology does is it helps us to be able to connect to something, the thing by which we believe we come from, and understand these downloads. And even the things that were downloaded that we didn't even know were downloaded. Because as a child, what we know within, the framework of childhood development is that, well, 80% of the visual, like stimulation and cortex, like when children are growing up, a majority of what they learn is from what they see, like not what they are hearing. So a lot of times I tell parents, it's like, well, if you want to be a good parent, be a good person. And typically you'll stumble upon what it is to, sorry, my laptop's about to die. And you'll stumble upon what it is to be, what it is that you're supposed to be in that regard. So what psychology does is it is interconnected with spirituality. It is not found outside of, and they work in collaboration to help us to live a life of fulfillment. And so a lot of the things that the guys were mentioning earlier, I was like, man, this is good. This is good, because we're just gonna end right on well. So one of the things that I also want to impart into you is that you serve an emotional God. Okay, God got feelings, and so if it's a man on here, for you not to have and or understand your feelings is to place yourself outside of the realm of what even God Himself does, and that's delusion. You deal with somebody who is operating outside of reality. Y'all ever seen somebody talking to themselves outside on the street? You like, man, it ain't nobody in front of them. Who are they talking to? What's going on? They're operating outside of reality. So you, who is operating in a place that even God Himself does not operate, are operating in some level of delusion. And so you have to be in deep understanding of that. So God, you serve an emotional God, a God who actually not only is emotional in emotion field, but He cares about your emotions. Okay. So, and one of the reasons He cares about your emotions is because your emotions are how you connect to Him. And not only how you connect to Him, but how you connect to the world that He is calling you to do things into. Okay. So you need those things, because even empathetically, right, we need to have a certain level of empathy to be able to connect to the people. Like these stories that these guys just told, right? If you didn't have a level of empathy, you'd be like, ain't nothing. It's like, man, you ain't been through nothing. It's like, look, you lost a scholarship, you'll be all right. You made it, you're here, right? It's like, but there's a level of being able to attune to what it was that they experienced, so much so that you felt something that you were able to type in the chat. You were like, man, or there was a thought, a download that came from what he said that caused you to feel something. Okay. So we serve a God who is emotion filled, and he cares about our emotions. And one of the reasons he cares about our emotions is because he knows that with experiences come emotions, and you're going to feel things. And that is going to happen. Now, when we feel things, he just wants us not to do dumb things that throw us off of the purpose and the path of what he has called us to do. So Ephesians 4:26 is probably my best or my favorite correlation to what God calls us to do with our emotion. He says, be angry and do not sin. He said, be angry. So a lot of times, you know, even within the churches, they tell you, it'd be like, man, don't question God. No, don't be mad. Don't be sad. It's like, no. Actually be all of those things, you know, like, because life is difficult. And now what happens after you feel this emotion is the thing that's the sin. It's like what that verse means to me in layman's terms is it says, hey, Trey, you can feel whatever comes along with this experience, but don't do anything stupid. Like, that's it. That's all. And so if you do something from the anger that throws you off of the path, and the thing about sin is an archery term. Okay. So it means to miss the mark, right? You aim at a bullseye. But one of the things my dad was preaching about, not too long, I think it was a few months ago, and one of the correlations that he was drawing between it was like, well, the thing about a lot of times when people think of missing the bullseye of the mark, the bale of hay, is that they believe that, well, when you miss the bale of hay, that you just missed the bale of hay. And well, that's not the truth. It's like, well, you missed the bale of hay and you may land on a person, place, or thing. Okay. Your sin doesn't only affect you. Your sin impacts the different people that are around you. It affects your purpose, number of different things. So how am I on time? I'm way into 10 minutes, I feel like. So, okay. All right. God cares about your feelings. Feelings matter, okay? Even correlative to your feelings. You just need to be able to feel them and do smart things afterwards. And a lot of times you don't do smart things because maybe the people before you did not necessarily teach you the correct ways to handle these specific emotions. I know, especially within the African-American family, we were not allowed to feel. The psychological construct of the slave mentality was that you do not feel for survival. Thanks be to God, we are not trying to just survive. And then one of the things that we know about, especially with mental health disorders, is what we're going to call them. So is that a lot of the things that people deem disorders now were, a lot of psychologists are coming out now and saying that those were adaptive behaviors that were suitable for the environment that they needed them in. And now when you get to an environment that's outside of the place that you needed to survive, it's no longer sustainable. Okay. So the emotions, and so that's where you need somebody to help you to come to grips with a more functional way to live within society and to connect with people and to live out your purpose more fully, to be able to understand that, because a lot of times you cannot do that by yourself. We were brought into the world via relationships, and we will be sustained in the world via relationships. Okay. You came in here because your mom and your daddy. It don't matter if your mom and your daddy were good people. You came here with two. Okay. And you need relationships. Like even children, we need to learn. We need to look outside of ourselves, because, and there are people who be like, well, I had a client. Let me tell y'all this. I had a client. He was like, so I work with people who suffer with addiction. And so this one client, he was in drug court. And it's always funny because I can talk within some realm of spirituality, but I try not to lean into my own. I don't want to project, but I allow them to exist within theirs, because one of the parts of the 12-step program is to realize that there's a power greater than themselves, right? And so his one client, he was talking about how he believed that we were gods. And I was like, man, that's interesting. And so I was like, man, that's interesting. I was like, well, what does that mean? And so he began to tell me, he was like, well, always dependable, this, that. And so he lists off these vast array of things. And so, and I was like, well, he's like, always dependable can get you out of trouble. It was something. And all in all, he began to stumble into, and I asked him, I was like, well, how did you, if you're God, what hope do we have? Because you're talking to me. And so, and I'm like, well, you're under the thumb of the state of Tennessee. And so, well, if you're the God, if you're the thing that we should serve, if you're the thing we should look for and look for hope, what hope do we have? And so, we need something outside of ourselves, okay? So that thing that we are looking outside of ourselves for, and sometimes that's within the community, right? God speaks through people, through things, and you got to pay attention. And that's where this thing of discernment is. I was actually looking through that yesterday because I was looking, there was this pastor, and I'm gonna wrap it up. There's this pastor in, where is he? Progressive Chicago. And one of the things he was talking about is gratitude and how you have to discern gratitude as opposed to decide it. And so I was like, well, what is discernment as opposed to, like deciding? Like, what's the difference? And so I found this one guy who did a really good explanation of it. And it's Henry Nouwen who actually explains it. And he says, Christian discernment is not the same as decision making. Okay, it's not the same. Reaching a decision can be straightforward. We consider our goals and options. Maybe we list the pros and cons of each possible choice, and then choose the action that meets our goal most effectively. Discernment, on the other hand, is about listening and responding to that place within us where our deepest desires align with God's desire. As discerning people, we sift through our impulses, motives, and options to discover which ones lead us closer to divine love and compassion for ourselves and other people, and which ones lead us further away. Discernment reveals new priorities, directions, and gifts from God. We come to realize that we previously seen so important for our lives loses its power over us. Our desire to be successful, well-liked, and influential becomes increasingly less important as we move closer to God's heart. To our surprise, we even may experience a strange inner freedom to follow a new call or direction as previous concerns move into the background of our consciousness. We begin to see the beauty of the small and hidden life that Jesus lived in Nazareth. Most rewarding of all is the discovery that as we pray more each day, God's will, that is, God's concrete ways of loving us and our world, gradually is made known to us. So, drawing correlation back to the guys who were speaking, I would say that they did a due diligence of discerning what God was calling them to do via the things that their human reaction would have told them to succumb to, right? Pain and difficulty is something that we would run away from. As a matter of fact, our brain neurochemically and biologically is set up for pleasure. Somebody mentioned it in the beginning, talking about dopamine and a number of different things. That's why we get into addicts and all the rest of those, things right there. So our brain is set up for pleasure. So when it's pleasurable, we run to it. But when it's painful, we run away from it. And so what God calls us to do is to say, and we know this within the Christian faith, is that we know that a life with God is one that is probably conducive of suffering. There's this pastor in Texas who says that if God tells you to follow him, that whenever Jesus tells you to follow him, that he's telling you to follow him into a storm. and that about shook me because I was like, now I don't know if I want to follow Jesus because I'm actually getting a little tired of these storms, as a matter of fact. So all things considered, the Bible is also filled with the best psychology. I actually think the Bible is the best psychology we got. Be angry and do not sin. Don't be stupid after bad things happen, okay? Because bad things will happen. It's going to happen. So you need something to orchestrate that, all right? Do not be anxious, right? Do not worry. And it's like, well, why don't I? It's because even within the construct of like the reason and the rationale not to is when I'm thinking of the divine purpose and place and things that make sense and where my connection, my identity actually comes from. When I'm connected to that and I'm like, but then things make sense, right? And you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to express these things. You're allowed to build deeper connections with the different environments and the people and the purpose that you have within life. So, and this last thing, we could think about psychology as a medical resource in that way as well. Is that the big picture of acknowledging that, yes, that we are trying to live as Christ-like and a life where we're looking towards God's kingdom in the earth as in heaven, but there are resources helping us to achieve that big picture and mission. According to Genesis, psychology is all about God, a God that initiates life in the spaces of pain, void, and darkness in our lives, and And as he did in the beginning at the creation, God is inviting us, inviting movement into a greater life, wholeness within the world and within each and every one of us. It is the Spirit, in the beginning as now, who brings life to spaces and not life while inviting us into the same. So I am here to tell you, psychology and spirituality are not separated. They are interconnected. You need both, because God, just like he set up our need and desires for a medical practitioner, just like he set up our need and our desires for an engineer and a architect and an IT, whatever else it is. You can think about psychology as being the exact same, is that there's a process to understand your emotions, and it also helps you to better connect with the God that sent you here and the world around. So I hope that made sense. That's a lot of information, and I wish I had more time because I could really talk more about this. But yeah, all right, that's all I got.
Well, thank you so much, Trey. That was really, really good. As all the speakers, you guys did a phenomenal job. So I'm gonna bring everybody back down. I know that we may have a couple that may have to exit, but I want to ask you guys a few questions. So let me see if I can pull everybody down really fast. Okay, won't let me highlight you guys unless you have your camera on. So if you guys turn your, if you can, that's fine. If not, it's fine as well. All right, so one question that I have for all of you, and you can chime in however you see fit. What hard truth have you had to accept about yourself as it pertains to either your personal or professional journey? So for me, a reason why I like to have people come together, like Adam said earlier, is something about having multiple people in one space and talking and having community, because this is where you find out you are not alone. A lot of us have some of the same thought processes, the same things that we deal with, emotions, all the different things that we're trying to learn how to process through. So when you have other people that can share, it makes you feel like you're not on the island. And I truly believe wholeheartedly that one of the enemy's greatest schemes is to make you feel like you're by yourself, and it is okay for you to respond out of emotion because nobody else understands and you're justified in doing so. But whenever you find out there's community and other people going through the same situation, now you're held accountable to see, hey, you know what? Actually, I'm not the only one going through this. And I can tap in with other people, and I'm not justified in making knee-jerk responses and all the things. So again, the question that I offered up was, what hard truth have you had to accept about yourself as it pertains to either your personal or professional journey?
I would say it's just a continuous battle with humility. When you experience some success in life, your first instinct is honestly to think you're responsible for that success, that it's like your gift, your talents, whatever it is. So it's that continuous reminder that I only have this gift because of God. You know what I mean? And when people give compliments, when people give praise, you have to continuously redirect that praise back to God, because if you don't, then you'll start stroking your own ego. And I've been there many times before, especially when I was going through my football journey. You feel like I've been sacrificing all these years. Now I'm finally in the spotlight. Like, this is the harvest, like Galatians 6:9 says, like, this is the harvest that I'm reaping. When in reality, it's not like that. That's not the harvest that God is talking about. Not the attention from other people. It's not this worldly attention. The true harvest is like the peace and the fruit of the Spirit. So it's that continuous reminder to not take that onto yourself and not to stroke your own ego or elevate yourself, but continuously redirecting that back to God.
Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in on their hard truths that they had to accept?
I think I'll probably say I had to especially within like psychology, like I said, I like to think. And so, but I had to be okay not knowing. But in the unknown isn't a reason to stop moving. So you kind of, it's like, well, yeah, you don't know, but if you stay here, you stay there. And so, well, keep going. And that's really difficult. A lot of times, my journey is very unorthodox. I didn't think that I'd be in psychology. It's not a thought. Never passed my mind. I don't remember passing my mind if it did. So I really had to be okay in the unknown and relinquish that thing to God and offer myself up into a lot more prayer, because that's really what prayer is. It's a sort of like everyday sacrifice of the thing that you don't know, and you give that to God, and you can do your best to move through the world trying to really, and that's why constant prayer is like a thing for me now, because that thing that you want to hold on to, or you want to find out and understand and explain, is you have to consistently give it up, like, and give that control away. Like he was saying, it's like what Cameron was saying, it's like, it's humility in a lot of different degrees. It's like, well, I don't know. And like, even with people, like within my profession, like people come to you they think that they're coming to you for answers. And it's like, I don't necessarily have answers. I'm just here to help you think. Like, that's it. We're just here to talk. And so I think that that's the thing that I have come to grips with the most, is that you don't know. Good. Keep going.
I love that. I love that. Stevie, Adam, y'all want to offer anything, or y'all ready for the next question? You give me a thumbs up or this or that.
Can you like reiterate it one more time, the question?
So what hard truth have you had to accept about yourself as it pertains to either your personal or professional journey?
I think it's the same thing as you don't know. That's it. Like you don't know the answer sometimes. Like when I talk to people, the same is I tell them, I can't give you an answer. I can't tell you what you should do, because my way is not the best way in your life. So that's the hardest thing one hard thing is knowing that your way of thinking is not the end all be all way of thinking for everyone. And that's why, I disconnect with a lot of therapists or mentors or coaches, is because they, present their information in that manner of, I think you should, or, and that's really not the case, because, I learned that, just because something was successful to me, that doesn't mean it's going to be successful for you, because we're different. We have different talents and we have different capabilities. So if I tell you to follow my route, you may end up worse than where you started. So it's just learning. It was just learning that is, I don't always have the answers, and it's learning how to actually be open to new things, because we have to evolve. So there is no way of living that's, other than your faith, that is set in stone, because we have to evolve.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What methods or mindsets have you adopted in order to continue forward after losses, failures, and creative droughts? So I feel like you guys in roundabout ways have already kind of answered this question, but if you could just put it in like one sentence or one phrase or whatever, what methods or mindsets have you adopted in order to continue moving forward after your losses, your failures, and creative droughts?
So I'll speak from the really quick. So me and my brother Ty, he's actually he's in DC, and we often talk a lot. It's about like spiritual stuff, whatever. So there's a guy, Stephen Bartlett. I don't know if y'all seen him. He was talking to CEOs like for entrepreneurs and things of this nature. So one of the things he was talking about is his methodology about his success, and he thinks of it as in the framework of failing quickly. And so he, in his thought of being success, he's like fail quick. And so he has this whole like algorithm and learning and system. And so I was thought it was really cool because I also know that failure is a precondition for success. It's like it is absolutely necessary. And so I think what Cameron was saying in the beginning is like our thought process is always on success, but it should probably be on failure. And so how to move through that, because you're going to, and well, it's like, well, if I'm going to, I should know how to properly move through that. And so sometimes, and that's really difficult. And so a lot of times, like one of my innate, things, inclinations is to seclude, right? We all, in a lot of different degrees do that. It's like when something's going wrong, when I don't meet, what I desire to meet, or when I don't hit the mark, I desire to be by myself and figure it out. And so, so now one of the things that I do is I do the opposite, is I lean in and I talk. And so, and it's really difficult. Oh my God, it's uncomfortable. I hate it so much. But it's one of the things that I found to be more beneficial is fail quickly, and do the thing that you don't want to do. Carl Jung says you'll find what you need most in the place that you least want to look. A lot of people have now spun that into I don't know if y'all seen that quote where it's like the magic that you're looking for is in the work that you don't want to do. That's like a spinoff of Carl Jung's quote of the you'll find what you need most in the place that you least want to look. So do the thing you don't want to do. And if you're scared, good, go do it.
Wow, that was good. Anybody else?
So I lean into I'm a very goal-oriented person. So I lean into, my goals when I'm struggling. I lean into what I really want and my purpose. So like just in a nutshell, if it's tough, if I can't, if I'm struggling, I ask myself, well, what is it that you want? And that's kind of how I speak to other people from is what is your goals and what do you feel your purpose is? Because that's what has to strengthen you. That's what has to give you motivation, not what others think or what others approve. But you have to gain your motivation, your main motivation from your purpose and your goals. So I just lean into, okay, what I really want. It's tough, but if I want what I say I want, I have to do.
I think we lost you for a split second. So you said if you won't, what you say you won't. What was that last part?
I have to do the hard things, like you said.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to chime in on that? I have one last question, and then anybody that has tuned in, if you have a specific question, you can go ahead and drop it in the chat, or you can unmute. But I have this last question. What are your values, or what is your motto for life? So, basically, what do you filter your decisions? What do you filter life through? What are your values, and what is your motto for life? Or what is your motto for life?
I think my motto for life is, just get comfortable being uncomfortable, because life's not easy. And as soon as you start thinking life's easy, that's when you get hit again, you get caught off guard. So I try my best to thrive in uncomfortable situations, to continually grow and prepare. And just values, I get my values from the word, I value peace, I value patience, love, kindness. The fruit of the spirit is what I truly try to meditate on daily and try to bring myself back to. It keeps me focused, it keeps me grounded. So when I go through these difficult moments, I realize that there's a bigger prize through all of this. And even if times look hard right now, having that growth mindset, looking for the opportunity, looking for the lesson and everything. But yeah, I find my value in the fruit of the spirit. I try to make that my foundation. So I stay focused on what I need to stay focused on.
Thanks, Cameron. Anybody else want to share their values or their motto for life?
I'll go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My motto is talk less and do more. Actions speak louder than words. So I'm very strong on just like Tre'bor said earlier. You know how kids learn to do what they do. It's not by what you teach them; it's by what you show them, and that's a fact. Live your life. You shouldn't have to walk around and tell people you're a winner. You shouldn't have to walk around and tell people you're a Christian. You shouldn't have to walk around and tell people, you know, what you are and what you do and how you do it. They should be able to identify that within your actions, because whatever you say you're about to do, that's another reason why I don't just tell everybody what I want to do, what I'm going to do. If I don't do it, if you don't do it, you're judged as a liar. You know, because I mean that's the truth. If you don't practice what you preach, you know, what are you? You know, like what kind of person are you that you're willing to lead someone or just lie to yourself or make yourself think something that you're not. So I just live on, you know, practice what you preach. Don't talk about it, be about it. Because words are valueless without action. Every word has no value with no act if it doesn't have action behind it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Stevie, Trey, what y'all got for me?
So I don't think I have a motto or anything, but I definitely have for sure shifted to, what's his name? John Mark Comer. I think I've shared the book before. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And so one of the things he talks about is just walking. And one of my goals in this life that wants you to hurry through a number of different things is to walk. And so, and because I know that with me just walking is me being able to think, to make conscious decisions, and it's modeling in a lot of different degrees what sweet Jesus did. You know, when his friend died, he stayed there 2 more days. You know, so a lot of times, like I think I can, because I do desire to do so many different things, and I only got 24 hours. Like the hour ain't going no faster. You know, whether I desire for it to or not. It's like, so it's really just take my time. You know, with what I'm doing, be sure that I'm in the line with what God desires for me and discerning that. And I really mean that. Like I've done what Trey wanted to do. Didn't work out. So I'm cool on that. So I'm cool on that. So when my motto is like, when I encounter something, I'm like, is this from God? Is this of God? And I'm gonna sit with it. I'm gonna think on it, and I'm gonna do my due diligence to discern whether it is. And if it ain't, it got to go. So.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we do have one question in the chat. So Aston says, this is for Mr. Jones. How can you join a community, being amongst like-minded people or people who have been through similar experience, and make genuine connections as you are healing without trauma bonding?
Go to church. No, I'm just joking. But because so trauma bonding is interesting because, okay, so what is that? Right? It's always gonna be my first question. It's like, well, what is that? What is trauma bonding? And I guess, Aston, can you tell me what exactly you specifically mean by trauma bonding? Because I'm gonna go to the definition of what it actually is. Because I also don't necessarily connect and go with pain. Isn't that what all Christians do? Isn't that what we're doing to some degree right now? So it's like, well, is the connection via pain actually bad? Now, and I don't know if it is. It's, like I said, it's what you do with that connection that makes it good or bad. So when you go to church, if you connect with somebody else that's the sinner, well, you, to some degree, are trauma bonded. And so, well, the question is, well, should I not connect with this community and church because the people here are sinners too? Maybe not. Maybe you should. I think that trauma bonding oftentimes came up, I think, because when did that come up? I feel like it came up with like relational context, when people would get into relationships that because they experienced the same trauma, right? And they bonded over that. Maybe they stayed together and they realized that the only thing that mattered between them was the thing that they experienced. And there is a revelatory nature to pain. Like, I think that God does speak a lot of times through those different difficult encounters, because it's also painful to die to yourself daily. Right? You give up the things that you desire. And so, well, is that bad? You know, maybe not. It's actually probably a lot better for you. And so I think that, because I got, even with my addictions, people, it's like, to some degree, people in AA have connected via their trauma. Now, and what I had this week is a guy who just came to the group, and he was like, man, I don't even want to speak about my stuff. He was like, man, y'all think I'm crazy if I tell y'all some of this stuff. And I said, sir, I said, if you talk to that man right there, he gonna say the same thing. You talk to that man right there, he gonna say the same thing. And I've heard a majority of these people's story, and none of them mesh, but all of them are to some degree the same level of heinous. And so I think that you do so by discerning how and whatever that connection actually should be. So if it's a community, I think the church is, to some degree, the people who are bonding over trauma, and how God calls them to maneuver and move through those difficulties. And so I think deep discernment, deep like understanding of you. So that means that you also need to understand your trauma. And so, because if I understand my trauma, and that takes time, that takes a lot of time. If you can understand yours and be as aware as you can of it and its impact, then you'll know like how to maneuver through different connections that are good and or bad based off of that. Because sometimes, like maybe your trauma has caused you to be a people pleaser of sorts. And well, somebody who has also experienced a trauma, what that has caused them to be manipulative, may see you as a cub and he's a lion. And so you're prey, which is typically what we see with narcissistic people, which they go after the prey, right? They see you and they know, I can eat you, and they do it. And so that's what happens. And so I think that you have to be aware of you, and you have to be aware of what it is that this connection serves. And you got to understand, well, and discern, is this connection from God? And then you can move through that slowly, walking, because also if you're walking, you'll pay attention to a whole lot more. So yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily bad to be in a community of trauma bonding. I think when you're healing is hurried, then the likelihood of the bond not being good is a lot higher. So walk through that healing community slowly.
All right. Thanks, Trey. So Sister Mosley, you raised your hand. How can I help you, Mom?
Go on. So I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, showing y'all my face too. So, but anyway, to what Mr. Jones said is kind of what I was thinking when she asked the question. Is obviously I think everybody has some type of trauma in their life. Everyone does. And that's why a lot of people come to churches for the community. The issue, I think, comes in is when you're trying to get another random person to heal your trauma when God is the only one that can heal that trauma. And so which hence goes back to what he's talking about, where you start being manipulated by other people who act like they're the helper. And that can happen in the church as well. It doesn't have to be in the church, but it can happen in the church, where people scout out people that have trauma or have issues, and for lack of better terms, come in to act like they're going to be a savior for that person. And then it's only for manipulation later on, because they still are suffering from their own trauma. So I think each individual has to learn how to find out what your trauma is, and do what needs to be done from that aspect, and quit looking at other people to try to heal you. Because people that are dealing with their own trauma can't heal you if they haven't even begun to heal themselves. And some of them don't even know or realize that they have a problem. So I think that, so that really stands out to me, just because I see a lot of that in churches as well as anything else, when it comes to trauma and seeking out someone to help you. And many times from a relational aspect, as he said, I think that's probably where most people are looking at. You have a lot of people that get in bad relationships for that reason. And I'm talking about, a relationship that is obviously male and female, that you're trying to move forward, but you're two broken people that you're trying to move forward, and you're spending more time trying to fix the other person. And that was never your job to do, because God is the only one that can fix. And then people got to want to be fixed. So, I agree that the church is full of broken people, or it's supposed to be, which is why you have so many people that think you do have hypocrites in the church, but a lot of people think that there's more hypocrites in the church because they still or whatever, but that's because they don't have an understanding of the word of God. It is the hospital. So you're supposed to be broken. The problem is when you think that you're not broken and you walk around carrying yourself as if you're not, when actually you are. And then you're continuously placing your stuff and your brokenness, and you're pushing it on other people. So that's my take on that. But I wanted to tell all these young men that I thoroughly enjoyed them. And I was an athlete myself. I was not no professional athlete by no means. But anyway, I do understand what it's like to have, things that you feel like you've worked for. And I've seen certain things, heard different things that you said. One thing I heard, and he's not on here, but Rizo, I heard him say, and I'm sure it's just his terminology, not thinking really, because you could tell he knows the word. He's been born and raised in word. But I heard him say that all I had was God. All I had was God. No, all you had is all that you needed. And so many times we look everywhere else to try to replace or find fulfillment in everything else. And every one of you men have stated that, have talked about your personal journeys of how basically everything comes back to God. And I think it's amazing, and how Mr. Jones had even mentioned that. Like, at this point in my life, my husband says all the time, you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time. How's that working out for you? Doing it my way. I'm doing it, my plan. And so, God's way has got to be the best way. And that's going to take humility, which is what Mr. Kinley said. That's going to take constant humility. But as you are all saying, we have to stay low, and we have to discern, because many times we're walking through things, or as you said, we need to walk, because many times we're running to get the things quicker, and we're missing stuff. I think about, even in my line of work, a lot of times if I'm out here, if I'm chasing someone, if I'm running, then I may miss something. So, you got to spend time through life walking. And I just want to encourage you all. And I'm glad that somebody said, don't worry about the numbers, because it's not about the numbers. It's about those that are hungry. And I appreciate you all giving your time, because you didn't have to do it.
Thank you, Mother. I appreciate that. Adam, what did you want to say? We will wrap it up. If no one else has any other questions, we'll wrap it up. But Adam, you can go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, with the bonding, I'm just gonna go out and say it. I think trauma bonding is great, because we want to talk to people that can relate to us. We need people that are hungry for something different, and can relate to what we've been through. The only problem lies within, or the only question lies within, is what he said is, what's the mindset of moving forward? What's the decision process of everyone moving forward? It's great to relate. 9 times out of 10, we don't want to hear something from someone who has no knowledge of what I'm talking about. We want to talk to someone that has been through something similar or been through a lot of things. So, but the determining factor should be, okay, what is this group decision making look like after their trauma? And what does this group decision making look like after their trauma? Is these people on demon time because they've been hurt? Or is these people like trying to learn themselves because they've been hurt? So I think that's the determination factor. It's okay to bond over time, but yeah, because it's someone that knows what you're talking about. They've been through the same thing. But what does their decision making support their growth and their survival after their trauma? Or does it support their pleasure and body and that's it.
Thank you. So I want to say thank you guys again. I'm so appreciative of you guys sacrificing your time. I know each of you are very busy individuals, and even if you're not super busy today, I know the rest of y'all's weeks are usually pretty busy. So I thank you for taking time out of today. I'm also appreciative to each individual that joined us today. For me, I'm a person, I love to curate spaces. I'm a space person. Like here's community, here's places where we can talk. I truly believe, like I've mentioned before, that community is a beautiful space where people can grow, people can do all the things and really not have to feel stuck. And so I think the best way to get unstuck is by hearing other people and realizing, oh, I'm not in this by myself. I'm not in a pit by myself. There's actually like a whole lot of other people here. And so we can stand on each other's shoulders. We can pull each other out. We can get to digging, whatever it takes. We can figure out how to get out of it. So I want to say thank you guys once again. If no one has any final words from any of you, I would like for you guys to share anything that you would like to share for your personal platforms, whether it be where to find you, where to follow you, your own personal tag. If there's something that you like to leave with people before you go, I would like to present the space for you to go ahead and do that now before we end our call. If not, y'all can just give me a thumbs up, it's fine. All right, cool. So so I want to say thank you again, you guys. If y'all do want to follow them, yeah, it's all on my social media page, so we are good to do that. So I want to go ahead and end the call, and I'm going to end it with a prayer to, as Trey would say, sweet Jesus. So Father, we just thank you for a beautiful time of learning, of growing, of really just attacking some things that I'm pretty sure many of us have dealt with, have experienced, or are experiencing. And Lord, I just thank you and know for sure that you allowed this to come together. This was a divine appointment for many. And I just pray that whatever was meant to go forth has went forth. And I do declare that the seeds that were scattered, they will take root and they will produce a harvest in the lives of the people who have not only invested time, but also who have sacrificed time. And so we just thank you. I pray a special blessing over each speaker, over Trey, Cameron, Adam, and Stevie, God. I pray that you will do a supernatural thing just for the time that they have invested here today. Please remind them and show them that it was not for nothing, that their service to your people will produce a great harvest. And so, God, I just ask from your sweet daughter that you will do something for them, Father God, something they've been truly trusting you for, something that they've been truly in looking for an answer to, whatever it is that has been really on their hearts, Lord. I pray that you will answer whatever concern is within them. And God, I just pray that each individual that joined today, that you will also do an accelerated thing in their lives for sacrificing time and for supporting the kingdom. And so we just declare your blessings and know that your blessings maketh one rich and adds no sorrow to it. So Father God, give us the grace, the patience to walk and not run, to not rush, to not be concerned about other things, but to be who you called us to be, to walk in dominion and authority in our lives and in the spaces that we take up. So we declare all these things to be so. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Y'all have a beautiful rest of your Saturday, and thank you again for your time. Bye, y'all.